So that's my intro to the book, and now we'll move on to the reading portion. Yay. So I'm going to take a part from chapter 6, and here I have to thank my mom and my partner Chris for helping me go through the book and figure out what would make sense to read. So this is from chapter 6. It's from Emily's point of view chapter, and the novel is told in first person, but from the point of view of both characters, and they switch off chapters. So it starts with Sam, the next one is Emily, but it's all first person, so just so you don't get confused. My dad got a little confused. So in this scene, chapter 6, it's from Emily's point of view, and she's the younger of the two. She's the one who played soccer at University of Washington. And she has just started working after graduation at Peloton, which is a bike store, a fictional bike store in Wallingford. And in this chapter, her friend Kristen from the UW soccer team stops by the bike shop to pick her up for lunch. All right. Outside, we strolled along 45th, the main street of Wallingford, me pushing my bike, Kristen smiling at everyone we passed. She was from Oregon and didn't know any better. So how's the new job going, she asked. Great. I told her how much I'd learned and about the Seattle types who frequented the store, the yuppies, hippies, and newfangled yippies, a sect of wealthy, outdoorsy professionals who had flooded the Pacific Northwest in recent years. Lori seems cool, she said, and cute. Not my type. That's because you only like straight girls like me. Get over yourself, I said. I wouldn't hook up with you in a million years. Ditto, pal. People at school were always speculating about Kristen and me. But our friendship was too close for us to risk crossing that line, even if Kristen hadn't been straight. Anyway, I had sworn to never, again, sleep with anyone on my team. Teammate romances could get ugly, especially if it didn't work out and you still had to play soccer together. Speaking of straight girls, she added, what's going on with you and that girl you brought to soccer on Sunday? You mean Sam? I asked. Duh, yes, Sam, she said, elbowing me. Just someone I ran into from home recently, that's all. Wait a minute, is this the famous Sam you used to talk about when I first met you? The one who taught you everything you know and made you the soccer player you are today, yada, yada, yada? Kristen had me and she knew it. That's her, I admitted. Wow, she nodded. Apparently your crush on her is alive and well. Who said I had a crush on her? Anyway, she's probably got a boyfriend. Since when has that stopped you? You're funny, you know that? We stopped at one of Wallingford's many sushi joints and brought takeout back to my house, where I filled Kristen in on my initial meeting with Sam and subsequent encounters, including the previous night when I'd called Sam and she acted like she couldn't wait to get off the phone with me. She totally wants you, Kristen announced, spearing a piece of salmon nigiri with her chopsticks. I rolled my eyes. According to you, every guy on the planet wants you, and every girl wants me. They do. But seriously, she had a gay brother, right? You're the one who told me the homo thing runs in families. I didn't mean the Delaney family. Why not? Just because. Anyway, I told you, nothing's going to happen. The night before, when I'd hung up on Sam, I resisted the urge to throw my cell phone across the room because, after all, she couldn't help it if she was straight. Kristen didn't buy my claim, except she's going to call you and you're going to ride with her to the next soccer game. Look, I don't need to be hoping for something to happen here, okay? Kristen frowned a little. Okay, I'll stop messing with you. We watched Ellen while we finished eating, and then Kristen headed home to the U District to get ready for her waitress job at a swanky Queen Anne restaurant. She didn't mention Sam again. Lori, my boss, had given me a couple of books on cycle repair, in case I wanted to learn, she'd said. I did want to learn, and I didn't want to moon after someone I could never have, so upstairs in my sunlit bedroom, I opened one of the books and began to read about bicycle maintenance. Only it felt just like college again, and I'd never been good at reading in bed. My cell phone, chiming a familiar tune, woke me. I downloaded a ringtune for Sam, Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. Like many American sports teams, thanks mostly to We Will Rock You and the classic poor sportsmanship anthem, Another One Bites the Dust, our high school soccer team had been inordinately fond of Queen. Is this a good time, Sam asked. I'm not busy, if that's what you mean. The jibe came out more bitterly than I intended. About that, Sam said, her voice soft. I wanted to apologize. I didn't mean to sound like that last night. I had a friend from college over, and we get pretty silly when we drink. No worries. Didn't want her thinking I cared too much. Anyway, I just wanted to apologize, she repeated. Apology accepted. You still want to play soccer this weekend? Definitely. You still need a ride? As long as it's no inconvenience. It's not, she said. We're practically neighbors after all. Then she asked, what are you doing tonight? Me? Nothing. Why? I was thinking of watching the Mariners game and ordering a pizza. You interested? Sure. I held the phone away from my head and grinned. Sam Delaney was inviting me over. The fact that I'd eaten pizza 2 nights in a row seemed unimportant. What time does the game start? They're on the road at the Red Sox, but I've got DVR. You can come over whenever. She gave me directions, told me that her building on 50th Street across the street from the zoo was hard to miss. The name was carved in stone over the front steps, Camelot. You're kidding, I said. I know, kind of cheesy. No, I like it. Should I bring anything? Just yourself, she said. We hung up a minute later, and I sat staring at my cell phone. Last time we'd spoken, Sam Delaney had barely had time for me. Now she was inviting me over. I could dig it. I pulled on a sweatshirt over my t-shirt and shorts and left the house whistling. So that's Emily's voice. Emily's younger, a little boppier, a little bit lighter. The next selection I'll read is Sam from chapter 11. About almost a week has passed, so it's the following weekend, and Sam and Emily have just played soccer on Emily's team, and they're making dinner together at Emily's house in Wallingford. Earlier that day, Emily attended the Gay Pride Parade in downtown Seattle, and this chapter is from Sam's point of view, so you'll get kind of a feel for her voice as well. While Emily pulled out the pots and utensils we needed for dinner, I set to work rinsing the broccoli. Do you go to the Gay Pride Parade every year, I asked. When I can. It's totally fun. It's great that you're so comfortable with who you are, I said. Not everyone's as lucky as I am, she said, setting a pot of water to heat on the gas stove. My parents always encouraged us to be ourselves. I think they would have been disappointed if I had turned out straight. How so? I couldn't imagine any parent being disappointed in having a daughter like Emily, particularly if she were straight. I'm pretty conventional otherwise. If I weren't gay, they'd probably think I was way too conformist. You're kidding. No, I'm serious. She wrapped the bread in a sheet of aluminum foil. My parents aren't exactly sports fans. My dad doesn't even know the difference between the NBA and the NFL. I doubt he knows that NASCAR has to do with racing. He'd probably tell you it stands for something like, I don't know, Native American Social Customs and Rituals. He's an anthropology professor. He may not be into sports, I said, but he came to our games. He was one of the regular dads. She handed me a jar of pasta sauce. Dutifully, I poured it into a pot. Unlike M's dad, my father hadn't been one of the hot chocolate-drinking, cowbell-toting Logan soccer parents who cheered their daughters on through blizzards and rainstorms. He'd had to work. How did your parents react when they found out your brother was gay? Emily asked. I paused. My family was going to seem like a throwback to the Dark Ages compared to hers. They took him to a psychiatrist our minister recommended, I said, one who specialized in gay conversion. He suggested a residency program near Detroit that was supposed to make Chris an ex-gay. I shook my head and set the sauce jar down on the counter harder than I intended. Is that when he ran away? Yeah, not that I blame him. She squeezed my shoulder. They were probably just doing what they thought was best. I stared at her. How can you say that? You must know what my parents think about people like you. Or what they thought a decade before, anyway. I didn't know what Joyce and Stephen thought about gay people these days. Not exactly a popular topic of conversation in the Delaney household. Of course I know, Emily said, but nothing I do is going to change their minds. I feel sorry for them, to be honest. You shouldn't. Must be hard to be that angry with your parents, she said, and turned away to cut up the broccoli. I'm not angry with them, but at some level, I knew that wasn't true. So that's chapter 11 from Sam's point of view.